Afternoon, sir. I got all your swords for you. Where'd you like me to put them?
It's not all my swords. Go get the other ones. I'll take that off your hands.
You're too kind, sir. I'll be back with the rest of your swords.
Hey YouTube, it's Chris Dyer here at Reborn Martial Arts in Springfield, Virginia, and we're coming at you with another What Is video. Today we're covering fencing. Is it a martial art? Is it still valid and useful? Let's go over it. Okay, so this question, it's out there. It's in the internet. Is fencing a martial art? Yeah, I think the answer for this one is plain and simple. Even modern sport fencing, which is as far from, it is a martial art. It's two people trying to defend themselves against another aggressor, another attacker. So yes, even sport fencing is a martial art. Now, what I've actually studied, my historic fencing background is in primarily European 16th, 17th century, early modern fencing. So think, for example, rapier and dagger, the small sword, the French small sword. I actually got my start in historic fencing at the Cateran Society, which studies Highland broadswords, or something like this. I also, as a practitioner of Chinese martial arts, Eastern martial arts, have studied the Dao, the hook swords, which some people question what this is. This is an actual sword. I'll explain a little bit more detail in a little bit. I've dabbled with the katana, Japanese style of swordsmanship, and the Chinese jin, or straight sword, the gentleman of weapons. So I have a background in all of these different swords, and if you stay tuned to the very end, I will give you the answer. Mike, the camera guy, keeps asking, "What, you have a favorite sword?" He can't believe it, but I do have a favorite sword, and I'll tell you what it is at the end. So my background is pretty extensive when it comes to sword work, so obviously I think my answer is going to be pretty clear. Is it useful for martial arts? If you consider the fact that in all forms of fencing, in all forms of sword work that you learn, you're learning footwork, you're learning how to close off lines of attack, you're learning tempo, you're learning all of these very, very valuable skills that correlate to absolutely everything that you would do in a normal, like, empty hand fight. Those of you that have been following our other playlist, which talks about the history of boxing, we're just now getting out of the period of boxing where what I call the fencing method of boxing. So we're actually using fencing postures, fencing guards, fencing timing, fencing terminology for boxing. So is it useful in a modern context? Absolutely. I think it's a wonderful training skill. I think the getting used to something very long, pointy, and sharp coming towards your face and not flinching or backing away from it can be really beneficial for people that are afraid to throw strikes and whatnot. Getting used to the timing, the ranging, the speed, all of that. Clashing steel on steel, it's one of the best things that you can do to get over your fear of actual sparring. Now, if I had to pick, of all the ones that are lined up here, a favorite sword, I know this is going to, Mike the camera guy is waiting, he's holding his breath. If I had to pick one, if it was one sword that I had to carry, if zombie apocalypse were to come and I only could pick one weapon here, this is going to blow a lot of people on the internet's mind, especially if you're a sword person, but I am of the cult. If you know what I mean, put a comment below. I am of the cult. I would pick this guy. It's called a spadroon. A spadroon is halfway in between a small sword. This would be a sort of French small sword. This I use for HEMA practice. The small sword, which is used primarily for one-on-one dueling, and split the difference between that and, say, this, a broadsword or a basket hilt sword. This one has tons of stopping power. If a larger weapon, they even have treatises where you're describing how to parry bayonets with this, solid defense, lots of hand protection, and it's primarily used for cutting. You can use it for thrusting, though it's primarily a cut-centric type of weapon. The spadroon kind of goes halfway in between. It's primarily a thrusting weapon, but it has a solid, sturdy, this is solid brass guard. It's very much a thrusting weapon, but because it's a lot thicker than a small sword, the spadroon has a lot more stopping power. So you can actually parry bayonets, or you can parry broadswords. This was typically what you would see a spadroon or a saber on battlefields, and because they're smaller than a broadsword, they're easier to carry. So if I had to pick one, which I think is the most versatile of all weapons, it would be the spadroon. So that answers the question that I get asked a lot, what's your favorite weapon? It would have to be the spadroon sword. So that's my conclusion on fencing. What are your thoughts? I know there's a lot of people out there that study swordsmanship. So we have a lot of opinions. What are your opinions on swords? What are your opinions? What your favorite sword is? Comment below, like, subscribe, share. Let me know your thoughts.